So in fiscal year 2025, the VA processed over 3 million VA disability claims and essentially cut down on the 178,000 backlogged disability claims that it had. And out of those 3 million claims, the VA denied on the low end 30%. That is 900,000 VA disability claims that were denied. The top three reasons they were denied: one, no service connection; two, lack of sufficient evidence; and three, not doing the paperwork on time properly or missing appointments. My name is Ryan T. Finnegan with VA Disability Claims Explained, and in this video, we're going to discuss how to go get the sufficient evidence and provide it to the VA so your claim doesn't get denied or doesn't get a lower rating than it deserves. So with that said, let's roll. In this video, we're going to discuss what pertinent actually means. We're going to discuss how to go get the evidence you're missing, and then how to make the rater's job easier. Because your goal when you're submitting a VA disability claim is to submit a fully developed claim or an FDC. A fully developed claim is you providing the information to the VA so the VA doesn't have to go get it. This is important because you control the evidence that you provide the VA. The other option is you allow the VA to go get the evidence. So you sign your medical release and you tell them where to send it, and the VA will go send it to them. The problem with this is, one, it takes time because the VA will send those out, and then whatever they get back, they'll put in your claim. So whether they get back the information at all or they get back a ton of information that doesn't apply to the claim that you're making, you don't have any idea. So if you develop a fully developed claim where you know, here's the information I have to provide. So I go get my evidence, I go get my doctor's reports, my MRI reports, my therapist reports, whatever those are, and I can go through to find the specific information, and then I provide that to the VA, and then basically tell the VA, hey, I'm ready for you to make my claim. You can cut off 90 to 120 days of waiting by doing this and ensuring that you provide the evidence that you need to give yourself a strong claim and that nothing's missing. So in the end, just remember, the gather stage is the most overwhelming part of your VA claims process. This is where the anxiety kicks in, the feeling of being overwhelmed kicks in, because you're constantly asking yourself, do I have enough? Do I have it all? Is it in order? Does it make sense? So take your time during this gather stage. What I tell veterans all the time, and what I did myself, is when I made a claim, I would go in and I would call in my intent to file. So I knew I had 12 months to make a claim. I would take 3 to 4 months to build my claim, make sure I had the evidence, make sure it was all outlined and the things that we're going to cover in this video, to then make sure, okay, I'm not rushing it, but I'm not going to overwhelm myself, to make sure that, I want to have this done by next week. So take your time. Give yourself, 2 to 3 to 4 months to make a solid claim. Find what you don't have, and then go out and gather it. So if you haven't watched the last video, I'm going to link it below. But I go in and I talk about how to properly do the research before you start to gather to make a claim. This is important because, one, I want to make sure that what I have, what condition I've been diagnosed with, is actually a VA claimable disability. I don't want to go spend a whole bunch of time on something that the VA doesn't have. Two, if I go back, and especially in this video, we talk about the Code of Federal Regulations. Remember that the VA will rate you on a diagnosed conditions, and they're looking for the symptoms that you have. In the Code of Federal Regulations, it will give you all the symptoms that trigger a VA rating. So if I understand what the VA needs and how they're going to rate me, I can go in at that point and I can start to highlight in every doctor's appointment that I go to, every therapist appointment that I go to, whatever the case may be that deals with that diagnosed condition is I can start to highlight the severity, frequency, duration, and impact to my personal and professional life that that condition provides. So the VA is telling you it is no hidden gem on I don't know what the VA wants. The VA gives you, here is our federal law. They don't rate on feelings, they rate on facts. So give them the facts. So understand that up front. Do the research on, okay, I'm making a claim on depression. What are the symptoms they need to see and at the rating so that I can highlight those symptoms, frequency, severity, duration, and impact. Next, I want to highlight, or I want to go back and I want to research the Disability Benefits Questionnaire, or the DBQ. The DBQ is the form that a compensation and pension examiner has to fill out to provide to the VA to your claim. So the DBQ can be filled out by your primary provider that you have, or your specialist provider that you've seen multiple times or over a period of time, or the VA can elect to send you to either a VA staff member to fill out or a third-party examiner. Now, here's the important part. The Secretary of the VA just briefed the President, I think it was last week, and told him that they are getting rid of compensation and pension exams. When you get rid of compensation and pension exams, that's kind of that middle person. I'm providing you the evidence. The VA is going to send you or have a compensation and pension exam if they need more information or more evidence or another exam. And then that report gets sent to the VA as part of your claim. If they remove that part, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like, but the VA is doing this for a money saver. I've already told the President, well, we can save millions and millions of dollars. I don't remember how much Secretary Collins said, but if they remove that part, the onus is on you to provide them the sufficient amount of evidence to give you a solid claim. But the great thing about the DBQ is you can actually look at the questions that they need to have answered to the VA. So if you know the questions before they're going to even ask you the questions, you can start to prep your answers and you can start to prep your medical evidence that you need so that, because if you go into a compensation and pension exam, you may only have 10 to 15 minutes per condition if you're lucky. Now, if you go in for a mental health one, you're going to be in there for an hour or hour and a half. But if you go in for a neck, a back, pain, whatever the case may be, neck, shoulder, knees, you're lucky if you get 10 minutes as they just run down this questionnaire and do some exams and some hands-on stuff for you. So understanding not only what questions they're going to ask, but as you look through there, they will look for symptoms. They'll look at when it started, how it started, what makes it worse. Look through all of that information so that you're ready to answer those questions and provide the evidence that they need. And bottom line, the important part of doing the research up front is if I know what the VA is looking for, when I get to the gather stage, I can target my time to gather exactly what I need for that claim for what the VA is looking for, and I'm not wasting time, precious time that I have in my life, going to try to figure out, I don't know what they want, so I'm going to give them everything. So spend the time up front to research, so when you get to this gather stage, you can cut down some of that anxiety and overwhelmness and just do targeted time. Now remember, the big three pillars that the VA has for a disability claim is you must have a current diagnosis, current symptoms, and a nexus to a military in-service event, injury, or condition. You must have these three. If you are missing just one, the VA will deny your claim. So everything in every video you've ever seen and every video that I'll produce, at some point there will be, you must have current diagnosis, current symptoms, and a nexus to military service and service event, injury, illness, condition, or if you're doing a PAC Act, a condition plus a location. So it's very important when I'm looking through my information to gather that it fits into one of those three categories. So what is pertinent? Pertinent means it just directly supports one of those three elements. Current diagnosis, current condition, or a nexus. What ties it to? Is it the military event? Is it a piece of information that will go back to say, hey, I hurt my knee in 2016. I still have a knee condition in 2026. Those two are connected. So that is pertinent information. If I'm making a knee claim from an injury I had in 2016 and I want to upload 10 documents that talk about my migraines, that is not pertinent information. More is not better when it comes to a VA claim. You don't want to submit 300 pieces of evidence or just medical documentation to show the VA, hey, like my body's pretty beat up. So you should give me a rating on my knee because you see the rest of these things. It's not. Just leave it out. Give them the pertinent information they need. Next is, again, you've got to have current diagnosis, current symptoms. Is the documentation that I have current? I can have old information if it directly supports the nexus, the service connection. But it has to be current to show them that the diagnosis, that the condition I have is still current. So if I hurt my knee in 2016 and I'm making a claim in 2026, but I have no current evidence, last time I was seen for my knee is 2023, the VA is going to look at that and they're going to make an assumption that, well, in that last 3 years, if you haven't been seen, you haven't complained about it to your primary care provider, then the condition must have fixed itself, and now you're just making a claim to try to get it service connected. So it is important to have current symptoms. So when I go gather my information and my medical evidence, when I take a look and I go, oh, I haven't been seen in 3 years, I probably need to be seen, maybe, because if the condition is still bad, I still need to complain about it. I need to highlight the symptoms. I need to highlight the impact of my life. And then maybe I try to get into physical therapy or whatever the case may be to be able to, one, fix the knee condition so it's better and you live a better life. But I have accurate, current symptoms and evidence for that claim. And then next, make sure it comes from a credible medical or official source. So you want the VA to look at that and recognize that, yes, these documents and complaints and treatments are from a credible medical source. And then a personal statement. So we're going to talk about a personal statement and buddy statement in another letter. But know that the personal statement is powerful. It is your one time to talk to the rater without ever talking to the rater on the phone. You want to write that personal statement so that it outlines how this condition happened and what it is and how it is affecting your life personally and professionally. So we'll talk about that, but just know personal statements are powerful if you write them in a manner that makes the rater go, damn, I'm glad I'm not that guy. Right. So we're going to talk about that because that is important and it rates its own video. So what's not pertinent? What is not pertinent is that 200 pages of extra stuff that doesn't affect your condition that you're claiming. Again, more is not better. If you have 200 pages, but only 20 of those address that lower lumbar spine or your back condition, then give them the 20 pages. The VA is not going to look and go, oh, well, he only has 20 pages. It's not that bad. You're looking for the targeted documentation to support your claim. Old resolved conditions, I hurt my finger in 98. I broke it. I don't have any issues. I'm not going to put that in. It does no good, right? So leave it all out unless it supports a secondary condition. So if I have a knee condition, let's say I hurt my knee in 2008, and that knee condition, because of my walking and my gait and the limping, has now caused a hip condition. So if I'm claiming the hip condition as a secondary to my knee, while my knee may have gotten better, but my hips have not, and I can tie my hips as a condition that if I hadn't hurt my knee, my hips wouldn't hurt, then yeah, you can put in some of that knee evidence that shows that this is where it started and here's my current condition. And then vague lay statements. We're going to talk buddy statements in another one. But if you write a buddy statement and it's not solid, don't even put it in. Again, it's just wasting time. And then the bottom line is if it doesn't fit the 3 pillars, Current diagnosis, current symptoms, and your nexus, it's just background noise, it's clutter, just leave it out. So go get what I'm missing. First thing I need to ask myself when I'm going to go get what I'm missing is, do I have a current diagnosis? If I don't have a current diagnosis, I need to go get one. That is step one. If you only have symptoms but no condition, like I have just constant lower back pain, it hurts all the time, it hurts when I bend. Okay, those are symptoms. What is the condition? What is the diagnosed condition with the ICD code? You've got to have that because the VA is not going to rate you on just constant low back pain, right? You want what is causing the symptoms. Next, do I have documentation of the symptoms occurring in service or related to service? Again, we start to look at forming that nexus. The easiest way to get that as a direct service connection is to be able to show that that documentation is in my military medical record or in my service treatment record. But if you don't have that, can you tie that into how it relates to your military and service event, condition, whatever the case may be? And then next, do I have the medical rationale connecting them? A nexus. The easiest way to get a nexus is through a nexus letter. If you don't have a nexus, you've got to tie that in with your medical evidence so that it makes logical sense that your service caused this condition. So if you don't have those three, the first thing you've got to do when I start to gather things is I've got to go either get it, build it, make it, but it's got to be there, because if you supply that 50 pages of medical evidence and there's not a current diagnosis, a current symptoms, or there is no nexus, again, you're going to be one of that 30% that the VA denied. So that's the most important part as I start to look at where my diagnosis is and what I've got to get first. And then how do I get it? If you've been seen at the VA, you can go to va.gov, you can go to My Healthy Vet, you can go in there to the blue button records and you can go get all your VA information there. You can get it through your private treatment records. So go to, if you're seeing a private provider, a civilian provider, go get them. Tell them you're making a VA disability claim and you would like to get a copy of your medical records. It may cost you. It may cost you $5, $10, $15, $20, depending on how much it is. That's okay, because trust me, if I pay $20 for my medical record or my treatment records and it gains me $1,200 a month of tax-free money, that is a great $20 investment. So go get those private treatment records yourself. Your service treatment records or military records, if you have a copy, great. If you are still in and you're watching this video, make sure you make a copy of your military medical record before you get out. But what happens is when you get out and you don't have a copy of it, as soon as you make a claim, the VA will go get your medical records. They will go look to locate that medical records and try to find the evidence that you have to support that in-service claim, the treatments that you received, to help provide that nexus. The VA has a duty to assist. Their duty to assist is, hey, I don't have my medical records, go find it for me. Hey, I'm not going to do a fully developed claim, help go find this for me, right? So that's what the VA will do. The VA won't connect the dots. So it's important to understand, like a lot of people don't have it, and the direction is, well, you can go to the National Archives and you can submit for a copy, but you're talking 6 months to years if you ever even get it. So try to find your medical records if you have it. If you don't, just know when you drop that claim, the VA is going to go find your medical records that they have and they're going to go look for it. Personal records, awards, incident reports, if you're claiming that you're a victim or survivor of an IED attack, the VA will go back and look. They can go back and look into your military personnel file and see that, hey, if I'm claiming that I was in Fallujah from this time to this time, and I make a claim and I say, hey, my vehicle was rocked by an IED, here's what happened. The VA will go in and look at your military service record, and they will look to see, okay, Yep, you were in Fallujah from that time to that time. And this is where it's important to have a strong buddy statement to back those claims up. If you're going to do a buddy statement, make sure that you pull the most recent form off the VA website. The VA form 21102210, right? Just make sure you don't want to submit an obsolete form, nor do you want to just submit it on a Microsoft Word document where they sign it, because the VA doesn't know if you wrote that and signed it yourself. So we'll talk more about that in another video, but just know, do it on the appropriate form so the VA accepts it. And then your DBQs. If you have a DBQ from a private provider that you've seen and they're willing to fill it out, make sure you submit it. If they don't, or they won't, or you can't get it, it will get filled out. Traditionally, it will get filled out. It will be interesting to see what the VA's guidance is if they take away the compensation and pension exam, if they require you to get that from a primary provider, whether that's private or VA, if they don't use it at all, if it's optional. So we'll see what that looks like when the guidance comes out, when they make the decision to stop doing the comp and pen exams. And then your Nexus letter, right? It is important if you can get a Nexus letter. Link below is our 4 free downloads. The 4th email that you'll get in those downloads is the Nexus letter package. This is important. If you're going to do anything, sign up and get the free downloads, because the Nexus letter package is something that you can hand the provider and tell them, I am making a VA disability claim and I need a Nexus letter. Would you be able to write one? If you just went in and told them and they go, sure, what do you need? And you go, I don't know, just a Nexus letter to show that this condition is tied to my military service. They may write you one, but if they don't write it with the appropriate VA language, if they don't write it, with the appropriate statements that they've reviewed your pertinent medical information and they don't give the medical rationale for it, the VA is not going to use that. They're going to look at it and go, okay, great, you have a doctor that's telling me, but they're not telling me, is it as least as likely as? That is the 50% mark that puts the claim into your favor to be service connected if you have the evidence. Is it more likely than not? Is it highly likely? So if that's not in there, you don't want to submit a document to the VA, especially a Nexus letter that doesn't have the appropriate language. So sign up, get our downloads. The 4th email that will come over time is an entire package that you hand to the doctor that tells them, here's what a Nexus letter is, here's what I'm asking, here's what I'm not asking you for, here's the language that it needs, and it has 2 different formats that they can use, written in 2 different ways, but it covers all the pertinent information. And there's an email in there that you can copy and paste to your provider and add the attachment that basically quickly explains to them, here's what I'm asking for, could you please do this for me? So go to the link below and sign up for our free downloads. And I want you to remember, a confused mind always says no. In life, a confused mind will always say no. Think about this in your own life. When was the last time something confused you and you just said, screw it, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm not going to do it, whatever, no. That is exactly what a rater's going to do. They're not going to keep digging and digging and digging. They processed 3 million claims. That means when they get it, they're not going to be like, oh, this one's going to take me 6 or 7 hours. They're not going to do it. You can't process claims that fast. What they're going to do is they're going to pull your file. They're going to jarble through 300 pages of things that does not make sense. It confuses them, and they may service connect it very low. They may just say, it's not my life, I can't find it, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, not service connected. And somewhere in that pile is the pertinent evidence that they need. So that is the part of only supplying the 20 pages, the 30 pages, the 40 pages out of 200 that they need. And with that, I'm going to make the rater's job easy. So I'm going to highlight date, doctor, diagnosis, and then 1 or 2 symptoms, or 1 or 2 sentences that draws that rater's eyes to what I want them to look at. Because remember, everything is digital. That's part of the reason that they were able to process so many claims, is that they're looking at your claim on a computer. So what's going to happen is you're going to upload your file. I would recommend you upload your file, or you're going to go to a VSO. Do not use a lawyer. Do not use a accredited veteran agent or these claim sharps that are taking claim shark that has taken 20 to 33% of your back pay when you can do the exact same thing yourself. They're not doing anything special for you. So that's why you use a good, accredited veteran service officer. And they can upload the documents or you can upload the documents. So when it goes in, if I'm making a back claim, what I want the rater to do is open up on his computer all of my evidence. They're going to open up the Code of Federal Regulations. They're going to open up my medical record or my medical evidence that I provide. And they're simply going to do this. And they're going to look back and forth as they scroll down. So the goal is, if I highlight date, doctor, diagnosis, so they know they're looking at my back, one or two symptoms or sentences, it draws them to the symptoms that I have that I've highlighted: frequency, severity, duration, and impact. So if I have 40 pages and they scroll, stop, scroll, stop, instead of looking through everything, hoping to make the appropriate claim. And if I'm making 3 claims, let's say I'm making my neck, my back, and migraines. What I want to do is everything in my back is highlighted: date, doctor, symptom, diagnosis, lower lumbar spine, whatever the case may be, 1 or 2 sentences. Same thing with my neck: date, doctor, cervical spine, date, doctor, migraines. That way, when the rater is going through looking at this, he knows exactly what it is. If I put them all together, it's kind of like reading a book. If I said, hey, go out and pick up a copy of my book, which is linked below, How to Build a Strong VA Disability Claim the First Time, and I want you to read chapters 1, then 3, then 2, then 9, then 6, then 8, then 7. Is it going to make sense then if I just said, hey, read the book in chunks, chapters 1 through 6, right? You want the rater to look at your story, chapters 1 through 3, neck, back, then neck, then migraines. Not look at my back, then some of my migraines, and some of my neck, then some of my migraines, and some of my back. Oh, and by the way, make me a solid claim. It's not going to happen. They're going to get confused. So you've got to make it as simple as possible for the rater to, 1, tell you yes, and 2, give you the most accurate rating on the evidence that you have. So make their job simple, and then go through and look at your stuff and say, hey, would I be confused if I looked at my own claim, right? If you're looking at it and it's not chronological, and you've got a 2007 document, a 2019, then a 2009, and then a 2006, and then just put it all chronologically. The next video we're going to do in the series is how to organize your claim so that it makes sense and tells your story so that you get the most accurate rating. But don't, just throw a claim together and then say, hey, like, here, give me a claim. And then you get denied and you get all pissed and you go, F the VA. Oh, they screwed me. Did the VA screw you? Which for some of you watching this, the reason you're watching this is because you got a low claim and you made a solid claim. And for others, you go, oh, the VA screwed me. And you look and you go, after you go back to do the research because you watched the last video and you go, oh, I didn't highlight the symptoms. I probably should have looked at the DBQ because I knew this is what they were asking. And I guess if I look at the packages I submitted, it really wasn't organized. Now looking back, I probably would have told myself no. And if you build a solid package and it's all there and it's all logical and it all makes sense and you're not missing anything, and you have a current diagnosis, you have plenty of current symptoms, you have the nexus that shows here's the event, here's my condition, here's the condition that I still have, or I'm making a secondary condition. So I've got 4 bulging discs in my neck. I also have migraines. I have a doctor that says it is highly likely, as likely as not at 50%, more likely than not, I'm over 50%, or highly likely, like I'm in the 90s, that these 4 bulging discs are causing these migraines. That's a secondary condition. Does it tie? Is there the nexus letter? If you have all of that and the VA tells you that it's not service connected, or it's service connected at 10% when the evidence that I've looked up in the Code of Federal Regulations says that I should be at 30% or 50%, it's much easier when you go back to the VSO to say, hey, What can I do? Here's everything that I provided. They can look at, okay, well, we will request a higher level review, or go get another piece of evidence or two. Let's tighten this up a little bit and then make a supplemental claim, because you have 12 months. So instead of worrying about, you know, like, oh, I need to redo this whole thing. You don't if you have a solid claim. So take the time up front, again, to research what you need and then go out and gather it. Gather all the pertinent information that you need that supports current diagnosis, current symptoms, and your nexus, your tie to that military service event, injury, illness, or condition, and then just put it all together. And then watch our next video that will be coming out, where we talk about how to organize it so that it makes sense to the rater, so that you can get a solid claim. And the big takeaways, again, taking time and the gathering information allows you to see what you're missing, but also areas that are weak. This is a great time when I start to gather all the information that I look and I go, oh man, like I don't have a lot of these symptoms that I need to have highlighted. I should probably highlight those. Or, oh man, I haven't been seeing the doctor for 2.5 years on my back, but I'm making a back claim. So maybe I should spend the next 2 months or 3 months getting back into the doctor, getting seen, annotating the symptoms that I have with the severity, the frequency, the impact, the duration, everything that, what the VA is looking for, so I can build my solid personal statement. And it allows me to provide more current evidence of my claim. And remember, you're not fighting the VA. You're not. I was the same way. I got to fight harder. I got to fight the VA. I'm fighting the VA for what I need. You're not. The VA is telling you, if you want to make a claim and you want us to rate you to give you a disability, here's what we need. It's right here. But veterans don't know. Most veterans that I worked with or have ever talked to have no idea that they can go look up the Code of Federal Regulations. When I tell them, hey, go make sure you go look up the CFR on that condition so that you can highlight the symptoms, they're like, the what? The Code of Federal Regulations. This is why it's important to do the research up front. So go look at what the VA needs. Go look at the disability benefits questionnaire, the questions that they have to have answered, because in a lot of those they're going to ask, does the veteran have this? And it's a whole list of symptoms. If I know the whole list of symptoms that the VA needs to see to give me a claim, I need to make sure that my medical evidence shows that. So when they say, okay, you've got a mental health condition, does the veteran have problems with personal or professional relationships? You can pull it out and go, here's where I talked to my therapist about it. So it's important. It is no surprise. You are not fighting the VA. Think about it as I'm working together with the VA. I'm asking them, hey, I have a back condition, right? It is a lower lumbar spine, degenerative disc disease, intravertebral plate disc displacement. I have a bulging disc. Here's the symptoms that I'm causing. You're telling me, that you need to see this. Well, I'm going to go gather this, and here you go. Like, work with each other to get the claim versus, I got to fight them. I just got to fight harder. You can't fight harder, right? You fight smarter. One, go get our book, How to Build a Strong VA Disability Claim the First Time. That goes in and lays out everything that you need to make a strong claim. Understand the claims process. Understand why they deny claims. Understand the nexus letter. Understand the compensation and pension exam. When you put all of these together to make a claim, you're like, okay, it makes sense. I didn't know until the very end those very things. I always thought I had to fight harder. I didn't know what I was fighting. Now I look back on it, I'm like, man, if somebody would just told me this information, maybe they put it in a very easy to read book. Maybe they made videos that was just on how to go gather the information. Okay, I knew one thing. And if you go back to our mentality video, which I would highly recommend, the one mentality that I had when I changed after getting a denial for an increase, when I had 23, or at the time, 13 sets of neck injections, lost feeling in my foot, and the VA told me I went to the doctor twice complaining of neck and back pain, I changed my mentality to one thing. I'm not going to allow the VA to tell me no. I didn't understand the claims process, but what I did understand was organization. And when I started to gather and organize and build a claim, even though had a VSO or somebody told me, go look at the Code of Federal Regulations, understand the symptoms and exactly how they're going to rate you, look up the disability benefits questionnaire, make sure that you're providing them the evidence that they are getting ready to ask you for. All I knew was I needed evidence. I needed a lot of evidence, so I built a claim, and then I just put it in logical order. That's where the highlighting, date, doctor, symptoms, diagnosis, and symptoms came in, because I wanted the VA to look at it. And they were large files. I'll show you a picture right here. That is my claim that took me from 20% to 80%. If you look at them, they're all tabbed. Each of those are tabbed. I had a cover sheet, so they knew tab A was this, tab B was that, tab C was this. And this is the important part, because when I went to my compensation and pension exam and I pulled that folder out, the first thing that the VA nurse practitioner said, or he was a physician's assistant, he said, I'm not looking through all that. And I said, don't worry. I knew it was my evidence. I said, don't worry about it. You tell me what you need and I'm going to show you. So it went through, even though if I would have looked at or had known, somebody would have said, look at the disability benefits questionnaire. You can even print it out yourself and you can write your answers in so you can follow along to make it a lot easier. But had I known that, it would have been a lot easier. But I knew, like, hey, if I'm talking about losing feeling in my foot, I knew in what section that was. So I was able to quickly pull it out, hand it to him, which worked great, because he was able to take that and write down, according to this doctor on this date at this VA, veteran lost his foot. But the evidence was there, but I had no idea that that was actually the evidence they needed. I just knew I needed to gather to build a claim in a logical manner. So take the time to, one, watch our mentality video. You've got to change your mentality from I'm fighting to the VA, I'm fighting the VA, to I'm working with the VA to get me the rating that I deserve. If you change that, one, you're not so pissed when you do these claims. Two, I go to the research video. I watch exactly what the Code of Federal Regulations is. I watch exactly what the disability benefits questionnaire is, so I can do the research up front, so that when I get to the G stage, remember, we run on an RGO, an Argo, research, gather, organize. So when I get to the gather stage, it is very targeted information on exactly what I need to get. I'm not wasting time. I'm getting rid of things that are not pertinent to my claim. It is only supporting the claim information for the three that the VA needs: current diagnosis, current symptoms, and the nexus. And I'm going to start to highlight date, doctor, diagnosis, one or two or three or four symptoms, or one or two sentences, because as the VA scans this, as that rater scans this, I want them to stop and take a look. And remember, you're not rushing a claim. Do not rush a claim. Sit back, take your time. Call your intent to file in today if you don't have one open. If you have a claim or you're going to make a claim, call the 1-800 number today. You are going to sit on hold longer than you are going to talk to somebody and simply tell them, I want to file my intent to file for a VA disability claim. That's it. They're going to take some personal information because they're filling out the form, and then they're going to tell you, okay, your intent to file is in. You have 12 months from today to submit your claim paperwork and the medical evidence that supports your claim. That's it. And then I look at it and I go, okay, I'm going to spend the next 2 to 3 months, 3 to 4 months, and I'm going to build me a claim that the VA can't tell me no on. And if you do that, your claims will become stronger. They will become, I don't want to call it bulletproof because, well, it's the VA. You get a rater. The rater is a human. But if I build a strong claim from the foundation up, my ratings will reflect it. And if they don't, and I have the evidence and there was a mistake, I don't have to start from scratch. It's all built in that logical, organized manner. So take your time, do the research, and make a strong claim today. And whatever you do not allow the VA to tell you no ever again.